Hi folks, John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Melee Via. I am up here at Immortals Inc. today with Mikey.
What is up, John? What are we talking about today?
Well, we are going to talk about something that is at least 80% sparklier than most of what we cover.
Dude, there's no way.
I think there might be.
Well, what do we got in our hands?
We have the Knights of Canterlot expansion for My Little Pony RPG.
That sounds intense.
I mean, it's definitely a little different than the stuff we usually talk about, but let's dive into it. Andrew Peregrine is the lead on this, and he was part of a big team. This is Renegade Game Studios, and it is part of their Essence 20 line. So that means, in principle, this is compatible with stuff from Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Power Rangers.
Nice.
Right? So all those Hasbro licenses that Renegade has. We've talked about those a little bit in the past. Andrew Peregrine has a rather extensive bibliography of stuff he's worked on. Doctors and Dialects, the Alien Archive book that we talked about. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, sounds really familiar.
That was one that he worked on as well. So this guy's got some serious gaming chops as he works on this book. Getting into this, though, I don't know how much My Little Pony you've watched.
You know, it's got to be in the low percentiles.
Okay, I have a daughter, so I have watched a fair number of episodes of Friendship is Magic.
A noble fan?
Well, I watched them because I have a daughter. And it's worth mentioning that role-playing games do fit into the meta of My Little Pony, so it's actually really on brand because there have been episodes that talk about the Ogres and Oubliettes role-playing game that some of the ponies like to play.
Wow.
Yes. So that's kind of...
It's canon.
Exactly. And there have been a few different role-playing games based on My Little Pony. The first one was Tales of Equestria from Riverhorse, which is now out of print. They don't have the license anymore. And then there's the My Little Pony RPG for Essence 20 that's currently available, that this is an expansion for. So you do probably need that book as well in order to use this one, though I bet you could be able to do a fair bit if you happen to have the G.I. Joe or the Transformers book too, right? And then it's worth mentioning that there is a rather expansive line of products called Pony Finder that is compatible with Pathfinder and 5e from Silver Games. Okay. Right? So what's interesting about that one is that that's about fitting My Little Pony into your fantasy RPG setting, right? So if you want to stick pony player characters into your Dungeons and Dragons, that's all about that, right?
That is amazing.
Yeah. Whereas the Tales of Equestria game and the My Little Pony RPG are about kind of replicating the typical storylines of the My Little Pony show. Well, this one kind of emulates that Ogres and Oubliettes game where you're taking your ponies and putting them into the dungeon.
Nice.
So, I mean, there's some meta stuff going on here where things are kind of feeding off each other. And I don't know, I think it's kind of cool, the different layers of interactions and redundancy you see there. Getting into the book, there is a brief intro that kind of summarizes the book and the high concept. And that high concept is basically taking ponies into the dungeon, right? And then chapter 2 we entitled There and Back Again. Tell me you get that reference.
Dude, I don't.
That is a reference to The Hobbit.
Oh, yeah. You know why?
Right?
Because I didn't finish reading The Hobbit.
Anyway, it talks about, this chapter 2 talks about adapting skills and elements to fantasy role-playing. So how you're taking the tool set from the My Little Pony game and using that in a fantasy setting. And then it gets into some general perks for dungeoneering and some new influences. Influences are kind of your classes in the game system. So we've got Archer, Bard, Fighter, Magician, Rogue, and Witch. So yeah, kind of your prototypical D&D-esque classes for when you need to go into a dungeon. Then we explore some adventuring gear. It always, seems funny to me that ponies have gear, but hey, absolutely, totally fits with the source material there. And then it gets into the Pillars of Equestria. These are your key NPCs in the fantasy version of the setting. And they might also be, basically sponsors for the characters. These are the NPCs who might be supporting them, teaching them, guiding them in their adventures. And then there's a bit of info on just dungeons and fantasy roleplay adventures and setting development and a discussion a bit on ogres and oubliettes. So maybe you might want to use this expansion to kind of supplement your existing My Little Pony game if maybe those characters are then playing a game of ogres and oubliettes, right? So we're getting real meta at that point. Kind of reminds me of Dream Park. That's might be a deep dive for most folks, though. Anyway, next chapter is the Way of Magic. We get magician influences, which include the Spell Scribe, the Hedge Wizard, the Elemental Mage, and the Illusionist. We get some new perks for magicians. We get some sample orders of magic, and a whole lot of new spells and magic items, on the order of about 40 new spells, and about 20 new magic items. The chapter after that is Beasts of the Dark, which, not surprisingly, is your monsters, right? Monster references to other resources, monster creation guide or adaptation instructions, and we get 15 new monsters that are really well themed for use with My Little Pony. My favorite of the lot is the Vampire Jackalope.
Wow.
Yes, the Vampire Jackalope, and I gotta say, it's so fluffy!
I get that reference.
All right, very good. After the last part of the book is an adventure for levels 6 to 8 entitled Mares of Malevolence. Yeah, that's a tongue twister.
Yeah, alliteration right there.
Exactly. It's pretty entertaining. Overall, Renegade Game Studios, it is a full color hardcover with lots of cool illustrations. And we've got really nice ponified end papers here. And it is 96 pages for $35. Got copies up here on the shelf at Immortals Inc. Or hit us up at immortalsinc.com.
Couldn't have said it better myself, John. Check everything out below. See you guys next time.
Till next time, folks. Good gaming.